Are you an accomplished woman wondering, what's next for me? Maybe you've built a successful career, but you're tired of working for someone else and feeling a little invisible. I want you to know one thing. Everything you've done to this point has prepared you for what's next. Welcome to Fierce Females in Franchising, the podcast where we spill the beans on the best kept secret in town. Forget what you think you know about franchising. Here, we share inspiring stories from badass female founders and savvy franchisees to help you design your second act. If you're ready to find a business where you can play where you work, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hi there.
Hi.
Teresa, I am so excited to have you on my podcast. This is going to be great. I wanted to start by explaining to our audience who you are, and I appreciate the referral that I got to interview you. Love FocalPoint, and so I'm really excited to be able to learn more about it and for my audience to learn more. So today's guest is Teresa Hartsfield, a seasoned business and executive coach known for helping leaders break through overwhelm, scale with intention, and build performance-driven teams. With over 15 years of real-world experience building, operating, advising, and successfully exiting businesses, Teresa brings a rare mix of operator grit and strategic clarity to every conversation. She's founded and led multiple companies, scaled teams, led turnarounds, and built and sold a top-performing franchise, all while coaching executives, owners, and leadership teams to align vision with execution. Her work helps founders and leaders move from friction and burnout to clarity, confidence, and sustained momentum. As an executive business leadership coach, Teresa focuses on strategic leadership development and executive planning, co-founder and leadership alignment, building cohesive teams and scalable operations, and helping owners work on their business, not just in it. She partners with entrepreneurs, founders, and small business leaders ready to grow with purpose and resilience, and she's passionate about grounded, candid conversations that deliver clarity and immediate value. Wow, I'm impressed.
Thank you.
So I always like to start with the end in mind. And so if you would be so kind, would you please share with our audience a little bit more about growing up? I always find that where we are when we were growing up, which kind of led us to our entrepreneur journey, I'd love to see if there's a thread there, because often I find one.
Yeah, 100%. I'm first generation American, born and raised here in America. My parents migrated from Vietnam. For them, it was really difficult because their only options were to work in a restaurant, to work multiple jobs just to raise our family. I'm one of 7 girls. They brought us here, and all of my sisters have had continued educations to get to their masters, and they've done so much and have given back not only to the immediate family, but to society. And so it's been so great to see how women can impact society, families, and then also entrepreneurship, because that's where we get our love and desire for it from our families. My dad and mom opened several restaurants growing up, so I've really watched the journey and the hard work that is required to be successful in it.
So that's really interesting. I love the work ethic that your culture has, quite honestly. Growing up in an entrepreneurial family, I did the same. It gives us, I think our entrepreneurial roots grow really strong. I find in franchising, when people think franchising, they typically think food.
Yeah.
And could you explain to our audience the joys and maybe the not so joyful parts of having a restaurant?
Wow. Okay. So I never saw my parents. We were there every single day. There was no vacations ever. And by the time they came home, they were exhausted and then back at it the next day. We weren't living, right? We were just existing. I think that was the hardest thing. Obviously, the upside was for me to be able to see how hard my parents worked and the dedication that it takes to be able to make something successful. And so I was able to see that, and it was natural for me to be able to apply the same thing into the businesses that I eventually started and owned and operate.
So looking back on your career, what are the skills, would you say, that you brought to the table when you first got into franchising? Since you watched all of that, you probably knew exactly what you didn't want to do, right?
For sure.
Right. A lot of times I tell my clients, sometimes it's more important to figure out what you don't like than it is what you do like, right? So tell me a little bit about why has being a focal point coach been so rewarding for you? Is it helping other people? Is it bringing all the skills that you have from your past forward, or what?
Yeah, for sure. I would say servant leadership is the biggest thing for me. I absolutely love the aspect of business, getting in there, getting my hands dirty, but I also love helping people bring clarity to what it is that they're doing and also shift mindset, right? A lot of times when people are deep in the things that they're doing, it's really hard to see the clarity that they need to be successful. And so it's nice to help them uncover that and get the best out of themselves. And so that's probably one of the things that I love the most about being an executive coach. In my previous positions and the businesses that I've owned previous, there's no balance between personal and business, right? I'm doing it all the time because it is who I am. Integrity there. But what I would say is I was gone all the time with my brick and mortar business. One of the things that I absolutely love about the Focal Point business is that the model is where I can decide my own, it's true entrepreneurship where I can decide my own schedule, my own time, my own clients, who I want to work with, when I want to work, and all of those things. With the brick and mortar, it was a lot harder. I was living based off of a schedule. I'd have to be there all the time. There was just no balance for myself, for my family. That was really difficult. I think for a period of years, they hardly ever saw me, which is definitely not what I wanted long
No,
term.
definitely not what you wanted, for sure. That's fantastic. So tell me a little bit about some of the women that you've worked with over the last few months, and what are the key areas that you help them with?
That's a great question. I've had the privilege to work with a lot of different women. And it's two pronged, I guess. So I'll address my clients and then I'll also address the women coaches that I've worked alongside that have recently come onto Focal Point too as well. But also the leadership of Focal Point. But the women I coach specifically, they deal with a lot of imposter syndrome. I think that's a big thing. Knowing whether or not they're worthy of the things that they do, whether or not they have a voice at the table, and second guessing their decisions, or they have to balance between, hey, am I spending too much time at work? I still have to juggle and balance my family at home and feeling guilty about doing that, as well as am I too aggressive if I make this decision and how will people see me? And so coaching them through a lot of those decisions, I feel it's tough because the name of your podcast is Fierce Females. To be able to supersede and trample on those things that we think, those judges and those things that we have in our own, not only in our own voices that we
Mhm.
hear ourselves, but of what other people say of us, right?
Mhm.
So helping them navigate through the imposter syndrome, the judging of themselves, what their expectations are of themselves. That is one of the biggest things. Not only have I had to coach myself on, but other women as well. And it's so rewarding to be able to see the aha moment for them on the other side to see, you know what, I can do this. I can make the decisions. I don't have to sacrifice work. I don't have to sacrifice my time with my children or with my family. I can still do it all and in my own terms.
It's interesting. So I have been an entrepreneur and self-supporting for a good portion of my career.
Mhm.
And I was asked the other day, what was it that drove me? And one of the things that drove me was curiosity, because I've always been very curious. As a matter of fact, I'm single and I've often been accused when I go on a date that finish the date and they go, I don't know anything about her. Also, but she knows a whole lot about me.
Yeah.
And it's just my nature. I'm just very curious. And I've also been very willing. I grew up, I spent most of my career in franchising. And I remember when I went to work for Sir Speedy selling franchises for him, I was the first female developer they had. And I walked in the room with 8 guys.
Mm,
And one of the wives of one of the guys spoke up and said, it's about time we had a woman in here.
mm,
Yeah, we are in a man's world and women are growing so exponentially fast. Companies and people and business owners and individuals are learning that we really do bring a lot to the table. And like you said, the thing I always love about franchising, it's your business. And I think people that are in corporate America, they really don't get the fact that it's your business and it's your schedule.
yeah.
And if you need to go to Johnny's soccer game, guess what? Your calendar's full that afternoon and you get to go to Johnny's soccer game.
And I do it unapologetically. First and foremost, congratulations on your long career in this
Mm,
business. Kudos
thanks.
to you for being able to do that. I think I absolutely agree. There was a time where you were probably the only woman in a table of eight. Wells Fargo recently put out a study in 2025 where women make up 43% of the global entrepreneurship, with over 14 million women owning businesses worldwide. In fact, in the US alone, 41.5% of entrepreneurs are women, while 58.5% are men. And the pay gap is minimal. And so for women earning 98 cents to every dollar of a man. So that gap is
Wow.
so small. And not only that, but it's one of those things where I feel the willingness, like you said, to be inquisitive and curious. We
Mhm.
naturally have that as gifts, but I'd also say women have the grit and empathy and passion that is
Mhm.
naturally ingrained in us, as well as
Yes.
the ability to juggle it all. And so, whether it's graceful or not, because we all have our moments.
Don't we ever?
Yes, for sure. And that's okay, whether it is graceful or not. We do make up that large percent of it. And what I absolutely love is women specifically, we bring a unique perspective to foster inclusivity and a collaboration. We're also skilled at asking powerful questions. And like you said, you are very curious. So we are able to identify behavioral patterns and get the
Mhm.
best out of our clients because of that. And beyond that, this is a safe space to be able to have a discussion and conversation, and it ends up being more productive because of that. And what I would say is this: what used to be a male dominated industry, it's no longer. And the women I've had the privilege and luxury of being able to work with, whether it's my clients or the coaches that I coach alongside, I can name a few, and I think of a few at the top of my head. They are fierce,
Mhm.
100% fierce. They give everything into their business. And the number one thing is to do it unapologetically. Uh,
Yes.
and that doesn't make it perfect. It doesn't make all of your decisions. That's okay. It's about how you get up and how you continue to move along in the process and surround yourself around other women who are doing the same thing. I think that there's power and synergy in that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. When I was a young woman, I was 21 years old. My grandmother called me. I was newly married, an oops marriage, but she called me one day and she said, "Honey, it's really important for you to learn something new every day."
Yeah.
And I think I have really lived that. I am a voracious, that's real. I think I was funny. I was saying to somebody the other day, I think that might be where a lot of my curiosity came from,
Mm.
because that wanting to learn something new every day means that I need to be seeking out things.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And one of the things Focal Point is really big on is we talk a lot about the Kaizen
Oh,
philosophy.
yeah.
It
Mhm.
talks about continuous improvement and working on personal efficiency. And so if you work on yourself every single day and try to be 1% better, that compounds 360 days a year, you will have substantial growth by the end of the year. And so
Mhm.
about intentionality and doing that a little bit every single day and breaking it down to the simplest form.
So tell me, what is the day in the life like for you as a Focal Point franchise owner?
Oh gosh, I love this question. And I'm going to be brutally honest. I am not a morning person. My husband will tell you that. I have the luxury of being able to have slower mornings. I still get my kids up, get them to school, which I love. And could not do that before
Oh,
when I was tied to a business where I had to be there physically all the time. And so I will then enjoy my morning coffee, do my devotions in the morning, look at my schedule, kind of plan out my clients that I have for the day, do some review, get on my sessions with my clients. And then also there's time in there for learning, right? Continuous learning that I do every single day because that's huge. The learning process should never end for anybody,
yep.
whether you're male, female, period. It should be continuous. And I'm a big believer in that. And so for me, constantly learning every single day. And so calls throughout the day, by mid-afternoon, I'm off to doing mom duty, which is what I absolutely love. Picking up my kids, being there, being present, being there when they're doing their homework to ask those questions. What went well today? What didn't go well today? Because if I'm going to coach anybody else, I should be coaching my own kids, right?
What a gift that is. How
Yeah.
many times do we see interactions with families and in today's world?
Yeah.
So I think when my kids were growing up, it was really important to have dinner together. That was the time at the end of the day where we could sit around, and thank God we didn't have iPhones. We could sit around and have a conversation. How was your day? What went well? What didn't? That beautiful family bonding that we're getting away from, but I think it's coming back. I heard you talk about doing your devotionals. I also do my prayer and meditation in the morning, and I really find that when I start my day that way, it grounds me and it gives me the tools that I need to be able to get through whatever is going to happen that day, right?
Yeah, 100%. And what I would say for me is it's so important for me to be in the right frame of mind. For my picture in the back, it says never ever give up, right? And
Yes.
so making sure that my mindset, working on my mindset, making sure that I feel grounded so that I can be that solid moving force for my clients is really big. And
Mhm.
so that time alone, that investment in that time is so important for not only myself, my personal growth, but for my clients too as well.
And for your family.
Of course.
Absolutely. So let's see here. I have a few questions. What's the one thing you wish someone had told you before you bought your first franchise?
Oh, that's such a good question. As you know, I was a broker for some time. And so I've really helped people through the process of not only identifying what is the right the franchise, but also owning a franchise and then eventually selling my franchise. What I would say is number one, I love the franchising model because not only do you have a community that you automatically go into, but you have a support network. What I would say, the one thing I wish I would have known before I purchased my first franchise was culture. The franchise company culture is so important. I advise anybody that's looking into purchasing a franchise, understand what the culture is like. One thing I always say, and I suggest people to do, is ask the question of, what are you in the business of? And that says a lot.
What a great question that is.
That says a lot about their answer, says a lot about who they are as a person and how they run the organization. And so, one of the things I loved, and I've shared about this before, I've had the privilege of seeing Focal Point while I'm newly a Focal Point coach. I've been in this space for quite a long time and franchising for quite a long time. And my husband, I've had the honor of watching alongside him. He is the Chief Development Officer for Focal Point Business Coaching.
And he is fabulous, by the way.
I know, I'm so lucky. And so, watching alongside him, not only his growth, but watching the leadership,
Mm.
Steve, in the family of Focal Point really is what I call it. And I know I've said this before, the movement that I have been so lucky to not only see it and witness it, now I get to be a part of it. And what I absolutely love is no matter what I'm going through, I'm going to have great days, bad days, whatever it is. I can reach out to anybody in the network and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this.
Yep.
And whether they're a successful coach or new coach, they will pick up the phone and they will help me. And that, having seen multiple franchise systems. And so I'm just so incredibly blessed to be a part of this network. I've seen so many successful women come through, and I know it's an increasing number of women now that are coming through to become Focal Point business coaches. And I'm just so honored to work alongside them.
Well, with everything changing with AI on the scene now, and they say that a lot of middle management jobs are going to go away, and a lot of people are going to leave those jobs and become consultants. And unfortunately, what they don't realize is they might become a consultant and they might kind of know the industry they came from. However, they don't know how to be a business owner. And I think the thing that's beautiful about Focal Point is that they're able to do that, what they want to call consulting, but they have a business structure around them and they're going to know what they need to do to be successful.
Yeah.
If they just become I'm Susie the consultant, sure, you can go out and talk to people, but you're really not going to know how to market and you're not going to have any systems built in. None
Yeah.
of that is going to, you're going to have to try and figure it all out. And how long is that going to take them? A long time.
And then further than that, right? Like there is nothing, being an entrepreneur, you know where every single dollar goes, right? And the pain of where every single dollar comes from. And so as a Focal Point coach, you go through the system and you have to do it yourself. So before we teach anybody else, we have to do it ourselves.
Roll up your sleeves. I love that. I call that train the trainer.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. And that's one of the things that is so fantastic about the system and the process is we have to be successful at ourselves before we can teach anybody else to be successful. I love that about the model. And then there's the component of where's your grit and where's your drive, because it does take a lot of work. It doesn't matter what business, whether
That's
it's Focal Point, it doesn't matter which business you're in, whatever one you buy into, it's going to take a lot of work. And you have to have that grit and the desire and the belief in yourself to be able to go out there and show up
right.
every single day, because showing up is different to everybody. And to be successful, you truly have to physically, not only physically show up, mentally show up and know what that means.
So, one of the questions that people always ask when they're looking for a business is, how am I going to find my customers? So, what is the process that Focal Point teaches you on how to go out and build your client base?
Great question. And so I have had the luxury of being able to have a career. And so just my network of people, my peers, my champions, those are the first group of people that I've gone to, but then also going out and connecting with other, like, I would say second and third degree champions of people that I know. So referrals, going out to market, making new friends is what I would like to say on LinkedIn. But at the end of the day, it's just about being open. It's about being transparent, having those conversations and sharing my experience and the things that I'm going through. And I think that resonates with a lot of people. And ultimately, that drives people to me.
So, do you belong to like a leads group, like a LaTip or a BNI or anything?
So I have joined our local BNI, the chamber, all the things.
Yep.
But honestly, there's nothing more powerful than the powerful of a referral. And that has been really big for me. So I have done a lot of quality work for the people that I've had the honor to work with, and they have referred me to other people that I've been able to continue that process with.
So, help me articulate to the mom out there who is an empty nester. The kids are heading off to college, and now she's saying, oh my God, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And maybe she was in corporate America before, but she's been home for quite a while. She wanted to be home while the kids were in school and high school and looking for all of that. So I hear them and they feel they're lacking confidence. Understandably so, because this is like stepping into a whole new world again. In a lot of respects, it's their next chapter. And I think the next chapter is so important. And I know myself, I've had several chapters over the years of my career. Funny enough, I just did an interview on Claude AI, which was so much fun. If you haven't ever tried that, I've got a prompt for you. But it was so interesting to have it ask me questions. And it took me way back. And I'm sure you find this too, where it would ask me a question and I'd have to think, how do I answer? That was such a good, how do I answer that?
Mhm.
And so it drew stuff out of me that I'd totally forgotten about,
Yeah.
which was really fun. So I would love to see, how can I help these women that are in transition, coming out of being stay-at-home moms to looking for a franchise, and Focal Point might be a great choice for them.
Yeah, I would start off with saying I've been there. I too have taken time off to raise my kids as well. My oldest is going to be graduating in 3 months from UNC Charlotte,
Wow.
magna cum laude. I'm so incredibly proud of her. And then my two youngest I'm still rearing them. They're still in the house. And
Mhm.
so I completely get where they're coming from. And I think for a lot of women who are coming out there, the fear is normal. What you're
Oh, yeah.
feeling, I'll start off with what you're feeling is completely normal, without a doubt. Embrace it, understand it, know it, right? But don't negate the fact that you've been coaching all along. You've been coaching your children, you've been coaching yourself through this process of life. And so don't think, oh, I've just been coaching. I've joined Focal Point. I've just been gone through the training program. I've just been doing it 3 months. No. One of the things they always say to us is you've been coaching a long time, whether you've been in business or you've been a stay-at-home mom.
Mm.
Those skills and those gifts that you've been able to bless upon your children and transfer it to the same traits that you would then train adults that may or may not have had that opportunity to have somebody pour into them the same way.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Let me see. Okay, we've really gone through all of my questions. That is fantastic. So, what is something I haven't asked you? What is something that is important that I should know that I didn't think to ask you?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Well, I'll double back with saying not only will you have had the experience being a stay-at-home mom, but don't forget to utilize and reach out to the people within Focal Point. One, because they will help champion you too as well. That network is so big. And then I think one of the first initial questions you asked is, what did I wish I would have known? Is the culture of the company is so important. And so I guess in summation, what I would say is entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart, right? But women can do tough things.
Yep.
We're bred for that. And so what I would say is this is no different, right? It's time for you to go back and invest in yourself as you have invested in everybody else in your life, whether it's investing in a company, right, that you've worked for, or investing in your children. Now it's time to go back and invest in yourself so that you can continue to do this in the next phase of your life. And that's one of the favorite, I would say that's what wakes me up. I'm so excited about that, that I get to do that every single day. That I get to have these conversations and hold people accountable. And it's not like I'm holding people accountable. I'm doing that because I genuinely care about people, right? I want to see them succeed. And I'm going to do the hard work with them, not from a you need to do this perspective, but I'm alongside you through the process and let's get through this together.
That,
And
that's
yeah,
so funny because that's what I do, right?
yes,
And like you, it's so important to me that I really help people because as you're aware, I open people's eyes to business models they would have never dreamed of because they don't know they exist.
yeah,
And the only way I'm able to really dig in and figure out how that works is by asking a lot of questions. And it's the funny little questions that a lot of times I ask that come up with that help me discover something that would be a great match for them. So, but again, that circles back to my curiosity, right?
yeah. Be curious in your discovery process.
Yep.
Ask the right questions and just be present. Be present, be quick to listen, because a lot of people will tell you things. You just have to be present to hear what it is that
Hmm.
they're saying.
Hmm.
And then don't give up on yourself. You have to be resilient in the easy times, the hard times, whatever it is. And that goes back to the belief in yourself, right? You have
Yes.
to believe in yourself, and you have to want to invest back into yourself because it's going to take hard work. Coached a
Yep.
lot of people who have successfully been able to turn their business around and those that have not been able to turn their business around. And I think it boils down to, what are you willing to do? What are and how hard are you willing to work to make your business a success?
Well, it's interesting. So, one of the things that I'm seeing well, whenever you go to a conference, especially when I go to the IFA convention where people come in from all over the country, and you would look at people and you turn their tag and they've been in franchise sales and maybe they bought a franchise. That happens a lot.
Mm.
They've been in franchise sales and they decide to do the matching, the consulting process that I do. And they get into this business thinking it's going to be so easy. Oh, that's going to be a piece of cake. I'm just going to talk to people. And so many of them don't make it because it's a lot of work. To be good at anything, you have to work hard.
Yeah.
And when people hear the word semi absentee, I think they get persuaded in thinking that they're not going to have to do much. And they're very much dismayed when they realize that it may be semi absentee, but it still requires you and it's still going to be a whole lot of work.
I'm so glad you brought that up. First and foremost, the IFA conference is right now. And so this is one of those sacrifices where it is a sacrifice that I'm not out there, but also for my business, but also at the same time, I wouldn't change it for the world because I get to be here for my kids, right?
Mhm.
That's first and foremost. Secondly, semi absentee model, you're absolutely right. People think, oh, I'm just going to buy that. I'm going to be an investor. It doesn't matter if it's semi absentee or not. You're
No.
absolutely right in saying that you need to be in the business, because if you expect your business to be great, you have to not only understand your business, how it works, the ins and outs of it, to be able to teach it to somebody else, but you also have to be present enough to know where your money is going,
Yes.
invested enough. And yes, there's that term semi absentee. You always have to be in your business. It's just a matter of the degree in what you're in your business, how much it requires of you. And I've never been a fan of that. I think it's just a perspective of how you should go into the semi absentee model. I think everybody should give 150% in the beginning and then eventually go back and lessen the amount of time that they're in the business, certainly, but always go in full throttle with knowing that this is the effort and the amount of work that I'm going to put into this business to make it successful. And that, I'd say, was the difference between myself and a lot of people in some of the businesses that I've owned where I've shared along other owners as well.
One of them, I often share this on a consultation. One of the most successful partnerships I've seen in our industry was Budget Blinds because
Mhm.
it was owned by two brothers and three best friends. They each put in the same amount of money and they each had a designated role in the business. And that was a phenomenally successful business because a partnership, because they each had a specific thing they did. I do the same thing when I work with couples. I'll always look at the guy on the Zoom and I'll say, look, you are not going to be her boss. You
Mhm.
guys have got to have defined roles. What you're going to what's going to be you're going to be responsible for this part of the business. She's going to be responsible for this kind of the business because if you try to tell her what to do, you are going to have a war at home. Not a healthy thing.
It's funny. My husband and I have worked together since we've met each other. And
Mhm,
so as long as we've known each other, we've worked together and we've had some highs, we've had some lows, right?
mhm.
And so I completely get where you're coming from. There have been times where I'm like, I cannot work with you anymore because
Yeah.
of it. And I have advised so many partnerships, and a lot of them are conflict management, right?
Mm.
Because they failed to put a partnership agreement in place. And some of them have put a partnership agreement in place and it still struggles. And so at the end of the day, what I would say is getting into business ownership with anybody else is difficult. But one of the first things you have to be able to do is you have to be able to understand and know that you need to be coached, right? That's
Yes.
first and foremost. You have to be willing to take feedback because conflict is normal. It's happen, but it's all about how you direct your energy with that conflict and how you see yourself out of that conflict. And so I find that is a big percentage of why some businesses fail is not being able to have that partnership agreement and then not being able to overcome conflict, business conflict.
Well, and then the other thing that I see, and I know you've seen over the years too, is that people, they either get into a franchise, but they're too entrepreneurial and they shouldn't be there because they want to change everything and that doesn't work. Or they get into the business and they don't follow the process and they think they know better until they almost file bankruptcy. And
Mhm.
I mean, I have seen people where the developers or their business coach, which they get a business coach for God's sakes, they just don't use them, has gone to him and say, "Would you just please, will you just give me 60 days of doing it our way and see if we can turn this around?" They follow the system and they blast off and do great.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to actually piggyback on that. I was going to say, if you haven't followed the process, at least start with following the process. If you need to then reinvent, because I've had to do that myself too as well, then fine, reinvent because
Mhm,
at the end of the day, it's your business. You have to make decisions,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
But
Yep,
if you haven't at least done the bare minimum and followed their process, because that is the benefit of a system,
yep.
right? To follow their process because we know that it works. You
Mhm.
haven't done that at the bare minimal, start there.
Well, and when people go out and start looking at franchises, they have to look at the process that they're going to need to be following and they have to believe in it. They have to say, "Oh yeah, I could do that. Oh yeah, that makes sense to me."
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's so much a part of it. And then the other thing too that you alluded to earlier when you talked about franchising was that you get into the franchise, you have a built-in community and you have a business coach that's been assigned to you. So you have all these resources. And over the years, I could probably ever since COVID, I would think, since we were all online and I wandered off into the digital world of lots of different groups and women's groups and all that kind of stuff. And I watched these people bumbling around trying to figure it all out. And I could visibly watch it because it was all online as opposed to somebody. What do they typically do? They open up a restaurant, they go to the food place and, oh, here, I'll help you do a menu. And they make it so simple until they get into it and they go, oh my God, what was I thinking? But that's where it's been so frustrating for me over the years to say to people, why are you doing that? Why don't you come talk to me? Let me find you a franchise that would be a great match.
That it's kind of like dating, right? It's so important to be able to have instead of going through the pains of dating a business, right? And buying into a business and then knowing that it wasn't the right fit. Why go through that pain when you can go through somebody like you who has been in the industry for so long that knows so much the ins and outs of franchising, you know what questions to answer
Mm-hmm.
and ask, and
Yeah.
you also know how to coach the people. It's so important. It takes me back to wisdom.
Yeah.
know?
Well,
Why reinvent the wheel when you have the wisdom and the people who are willing to pour into you to be able to give and share that knowledge? And that, for me, that is so critical. And that shortens the process of education, of learning what business I should buy, and then the pains of buying into something that wasn't the right fit. So
Mhm.
kudos to you
Yeah,
for doing that. It is so needed in the process. And I think it makes a huge difference to the life of an entrepreneur.
I agree. Well, Teresa, this has been lovely. I so appreciate you taking the time to come spend some time with me on this podcast. And I hope that there's going to be some people out there that hear this and it helps them make a decision to go one way or the other. And please do tell your sweet husband I said hi. And I look forward to seeing you at one of our events somewhere out there in franchise world.
For sure, for sure. I'll definitely be out there. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I hope that my hope and desire in coming to this call today is to be able to impact at least one person. And I hope that we've been able to do that.
I hope so too.
And you guys know where to reach me. If not,
Yes,
connect with
please
me.
give him your contact information.
You can find me on LinkedIn, but Hartsfield T, I believe, is where to find me on LinkedIn. But absolutely would love to be able to connect with anybody who is either an entrepreneur, who is new in a business. A lot of times they'll have their own coaches, as you've said, within an organization. But what differs between me and a lot of other coaches is they're responsible for you reporting your numbers to them. I'm there to help you change culture within your team, make sure that you're hiring the right people, onboarding the right people, your systems and processes are in place, but then also help you with growth management, and then also exiting eventually when you're looking at doing that.
Fantastic. All right. And I will put your contact information in the show notes too.
Sounds great. Thank
Okay.
you so much
All
for your
right. Thank you. Thank you for spending this time with us today. Before we go, I want to leave you with this. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need a willingness to follow a proven system. If you're tired of working for someone else and ready to explore building something of your own, the first step is simple. Head over to yourfranchisecoach.com to learn about my Freedom Franchise Blueprint, the exact process I use to help women just like you find their perfect match. Remember, franchising is the best kept secret in town, and you deserve to be in on it. Until next week, stay fierce, stay curious, and keep crushing those goals.